I really believe life is such a pendulum. Like you go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. And when you're down, just know it will go up.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to another episode of the True Life Network podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ashabi, and today I got a special treat for you guys. Today's guest is an actress, a host, writer, digital influencer, content creator, and the co-founder of a comedy duo called Don't Call Me Mommy. Some of her videos have over 9 million views, and her social media following is the thing that put her on the map with over 210,000 followers on Instagram, and that's where she shares her snippets of life as a mom, a fashionista, beauty queen, and of course, a comedian. She was featured on Yahoo and AOL and in Forbes magazine as one of LA's influencers to watch. Ladies and gentlemen, today I bring to you the one and only Samantha Gutstadt.
You got it.
There we go. I apologize on the last name.
No, it's not an easy last name. The actual pronunciation back in Europe would be Gutstadt, but over here in North America, we say Gutstadt. Easy.
I hope I don't get shot after this for mispronouncing it.
It's okay.
I tried. I apologize. So, Sam, honestly, I do appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
The first thing I want to jump into is your background and kind of your story, just basically the transitions that you've had to go through in order to get to the point where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, look, I grew up in Toronto, Canada. We talked about that earlier. My main part of my life was actually as a competitive athlete. I feel like I learned all my life lessons, I say, on the tennis court, because I think having sport to me really mimics life. And so even though I'm working in entertainment now, again, all the lessons I learned, the thick skin I think that I have to be in the entertainment world all came from starting at the age of 6, being alone on a tennis court, competing up until, I finished competing at 18, 19, and I still play and compete now, but really being on the Canadian national team and all of that pressure, the immense pressure that's put on you, it really taught me, how to win with grace, how to lose with grace, how to kind of find your way if you're at the bottom of a hole and crawl back up. So all of those lessons I learned, I probably lost 100 matches until I won my first. So all of those, and then it relates to, I sort of got into acting around 10, 11. My family is not involved in that at all. My mom's a teacher, my dad's a lawyer. Toronto at the time didn't really have a bustling entertainment industry. It wasn't like growing up in LA where it's all around you.
They're coming up though right now.
They are. But when I was little, it wasn't a thing. And I came home one day and I said, Mom, I want to be an actor. And she was like, what? What? So she put me in classes, which was the right way to do it. I took drama class. I wanted to do comedy. And we had Second City and they did a class for preteens, which was really cool. You learned how to time your jokes and do improv. And that was where I fell in love with improv. And then from there on out, I sort of got involved as I was still playing tennis. I sort of got involved in the theater scene in Canada, in Toronto. I did a lot of TV, film, commercials, voiceover, you name it, I did it. And in my early 20s, I graduated from film school. So I was 2 feet in. I wanted to tell stories. I was so moved by stories, whether it was books, plays, movies, TV shows. And I wanted to move people and tell stories. That was kind of always what drove me, to have people feel something, whether it was laughter, because again, I loved comedy. I also loved drama. So film school was amazing because I learned how to tell stories behind the camera. And when I graduated, I remember I got a film into a festival in Los Angeles. I'd never been. And when I came out here, it was, I'm trying to remember the name of it now. It was this.
How do you not know the name of your first film?
Getting There. It was called Getting There. It wasn't my first. I actually had one called Shiva that got onto TV.
Okay.
My 4th year film. But this 3rd year film was called Getting There. And it was kind of a thriller. It was short. It was 15 minutes, but we submitted it to all these festivals and it got in, and we came out to LA, me and my friend Danielle, who we did it together. And I remember I came back and I was featured in our local news as like, because we had a film there and everything. And I was quoted saying, when I graduate, I am going to LA. And sure enough, I met my husband actually shortly after that. I was 21, and it took a few more years, but at 26, came out to LA, did a string of movies, was kind of a working actor always. I did tons of commercials, TV, movie, all of that, but I wasn't really getting a shot at comedy. I was taking comedy classes, but I was always getting cast in dramas. And it wasn't until I had my first kid that like the trajectory really changed. I think becoming a mom or dad really changes you at the core sometimes. And for me, it was like, do I want to be in Omaha, Nebraska, shooting this thriller and be away from my baby? Is that fulfilling me? Because I was like dying on page 10 of like this thriller. I mean, I was working, so I was grateful. And that was 10 steps ahead of so many people in LA who are coming out and trying to get work. But it wasn't satisfying anymore somehow. And again, I wasn't getting a shot doing comedy. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to write some of my own stuff. I'm going to write some of my dream comedy roles, my jokes, my sense of humor, and like write it for me. And that's what I started doing. And this is when like YouTube and Instagram was like just getting started. And I started a blog. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my Instagram off private. I'm going to strategically grow it, because at this time, again, it was all like kind of bubbling up. And I made some stuff for Funny or Die, which was like, Will Ferrell was one of the founders, and I had some sketches on there. I was very active at Upright Citizens Brigade, which is a great comedy company that you can take classes and perform. And that's kind of how I got started. And basically, one of my first things I sold was a show called Shit No One Told You. And it was inspired by motherhood. And me and my partner in Don't Call Me Mommy sold it. And we had over 9 million views. And that kind of like started us as these creators that can like write, direct, produce, do everything. Because she had a very similar trajectory to me, where she was like a writer, actress, was dying in thrillers, and like was like dead person number 5, like something. And, now I'm doing kind of everything that I trained to do, I get to do, because I'm, again, all my film school backgrounds, like writing, directing, producing, and I'm acting and everything. And we just got actually a 6-part series we're going to be doing that we start production on in a few weeks. And
Congrats.
Thank you. And I'm like so excited to dig in. This is our first big one since 2020. I mean, we've been working, but like this is a very big project in scope. And so I never would have imagined that this job existed when I first started in this industry, because it didn't.
So real quick, I don't mean to like kind of like take the trajectory
Yeah.
of this conversation off where we were going, but I'm curious, the name right there, Shit Nobody Told You. What was that thing for you that you were just like, shit, nobody told me this, going into being a mom or an actor or a comedian? What was that one thing that, kind of clicked for you with that name right there?
There was so much to that name. That series, like I said, launched our company and like me as a creator this way. But it came from honestly a night out with Haely. She was a new mom. I was on my second child, so fairly new still. I had little babies. I do again, but at the time I had 2 little babies. And we were sitting across from each other at a bar in Venice. And we were 2 drinks in, and she like grabbed my hand.
Venice, Florida or Italy?
Neither. Venice, California.
All right. So you live in the West Coast life. All right, my bad.
West Coast life. So she literally grabs my hand and she's like, Sam, why didn't anyone ever tell me any of this? And I'm like, I know. It was an evergreen series. Like our episodes were Shit No One Told You about breastfeeding, sex after baby, second kid, making mom friends. Like honestly, you could take anything. No one knows anything before becoming a parent. Like you think, okay, I know what this is like. You have no idea. And so we
100%.
wanted to tell, yeah, you're a new dad. We wanted to tell these relatable truths that like people were thinking but never talked about, and do it in the lens of humor. So we tell these stories through humor, but they're like, one of them was for me, I was someone that was super social before having kids. I went to industry events. I was always going out and everything. And I was like, all right, I'm going to have a baby and like not skip a beat and like continue this fabulous life of going out all the time.
But shit,
So
nobody told
yeah,
you.
shit, no one told me. So I was breastfeeding and I got invited to like this music event, like industry event. It was at a studio. I had to bring a pump because I was going to be away from my baby. By the way, no one tells you that part, that you're breastfeeding around the clock if you're
Yeah.
breastfeeding. So I wear an outfit that was super not appropriate to be taking off to like put a pump on, number one. So again, knew nothing. I'm in this, like, I asked for a private room. I brought it in a purse. Like if I tell you all the mistakes I made, you'd be like, oh my God, Sam, why didn't you know any of this?
I mean,
I'm
I wouldn't
sitting
know.
literally,
I'm a guy. I wouldn't know.
yeah,
So my
no.
wife might know, but me personally,
I didn't know. And by the way, when we shared this story, all these moms were like, me too, me too. I mean, forgetting parts of the pump, like, I mean, endless stories. But for me, it was 5 guys walking in on me while my whole outfit is off and I'm like a cow pumping and like at this like hip party. And I'm just like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home now. Yeah. Yep. So that was like one of them. We had another one where my business partner went out, same idea. She's like, I'm going to go out and have a fun night. Forgot to bring a part to her pump. Had to hand express in a bathroom, a unisex bathroom, because she was at such a cool place. There wasn't even a men's and women's. It was just like anyone.
co-ed.
I mean, just endless comedy, embarrassing stories.
So was the show actually based off of your personal experiences?
Yeah,
So
oh yeah.
everything
We
in
shared
there,
our
if somebody
most.
wants to know you in and out, they can go watch that show and say, hey,
Yep.
this is actually what happened to her.
Oh yeah. Like we even have our best viewed episode, by the way, is sex after baby. My husband would kill me, but it's pretty much him trying to have sex with me for the first 6 weeks once we're cleared and like me trying to avoid it and then him being tired. Like it's all from real. Everything we create is a real story. So if someone really wanted to get to know us,
See, I
it's
can
either a
relate to that.
combination.
I can relate to
Yeah.
that. You know, at the end of the day, I think that most people don't realize that, you know, at least men don't realize the toll that birth actually takes on the woman,
Oh.
right?
And you don't want to be touched right away because everyone, like the baby is touching you at all times. Like especially if you're breastfeeding, you don't get a break. You don't get your own personal space. So the last thing I wanted, I remember at the time, was my husband touching me, which is terrible to say because like that's how we made a baby. So, but it's something no one talks about. And there's hormonal changes that go on and you're healing from childbirth. Like there's just, and you're exhausted and you're figuring out how to like navigate this new normal. So this new project we're doing, we're going to be doing 6 new episodes for a brand. We own the series and we license it. So we're doing 6 new episodes of Shit No One Told You coming soon.
So can you give us some insights on what's actually going to be on the episodes? Any like, you know, experiences that you've gone through?
I have a new baby again, but I have older kids. So I feel like I understand the like
What are their
next
ages?
chapter that they're 7 and 9. So they're big. And Hayley's son is 5. So we wanted to delve more into relationships, like your relationship with your partner, things like that. We wanted to delve into judgment among moms or parents. So that was one, like kind of like the judging of like, oh, you do this, well, I do this. Come on, we're all in this together. Like, let's not judge each other
100%.
and make someone feel bad about the choices they're making that work for them. Because that's like a real thing, especially as kids get older, you know, like, oh, you do this much screen time. Like we don't even have a TV in the house. And I'm like, come on, you know? Yeah, I guess really, oh, what a family looks like in 2022. That was important to me because I have friends who have had babies on their own, with a partner, without a partner, divorced families that are still friends. Like I think the way a family looks now in 2022 is so different than when we created a series even. And what's, you know, the traditional family is almost like not the norm anymore. So
Well,
I wanted
I actually
to
want
be
to touch on
portrayed.
that. I want to touch on that because I think that most
Yeah.
people have a misconception of what a family is actually supposed to look like. I think that what people
Mhm.
don't realize is, regardless of where you're coming from or who you are or anything like that, each family is going to look different.
Mhm.
Everybody has different tools, resources, financial abilities than another person does. And I think that a lot of people are trying to compete for that external validation. For example, like, you know, when I was going to college, I went to community college. So I got, excuse my language, but I got shat on from all the kids that were going to like actual universities. And I think that the parents kind of like, it boosted their egos to be like, oh, my daughter or my son goes here. Right. And I think that everybody's kind of competing for that spot to be like, oh, I'm in a better position than you are, rather than realizing, okay, how good of a human is my child? I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what we got to start focusing on. And, you as a mother, like I want your perspective on that because I think that that's kind of like the way that we got to start shape our kids for the future. At least for my son, I want to
Oh,
make sure
I
that
relate to that. I have a daughter who's a baby, so she doesn't talk yet. But with my two boys, I feel this big responsibility to raise them a certain way, especially living in Los Angeles. I think we have excess when you're living in these big cities where they have access and excess of everything. I talk to them and we talk about how we feel, teaching them empathy, like what the rest of the world is like outside of the bubble that we live in. They've volunteered with me starting when they were really little. The neighborhood we're in now is pretty suburban, safe, but we used to live in Venice, California, which is a real dichotomy of
not Italy,
these
guys.
beautiful homes. Not Italy, guys, I wish we were living in Italy. It's a dichotomy of like these like beautiful homes, hipster, all these like tech companies moved in. You've got like this excess of wealth, and then you have a huge homeless population in Venice with a lot of mental health issues. We rented a house there, and we had this guy that lived outside our house, and he was homeless, and he lived on the grass, and we'd wake up in the morning when I would walk with my kids, they would see this guy. And so it was a great way to start the conversation with my kids, because in other parts of Los Angeles there's not a guy living on our street here, but it was an opportunity for us to open that conversation up. And I remember my middle son, he was 5, and he goes, "Mommy, where is his mommy? Like, where's his home? Why doesn't he just go home to his mommy?" And it gave me an opportunity to explain to him why we could only hypothesize why this guy didn't have a home and didn't have a mommy, but he wanted to go and buy him socks and like, because it was cold. And I remember it stuck with him. And so it's something he talks about still. And I just recently volunteered for Easter at a homeless shelter downtown. And I came home and told them, and my son was like, "That makes me really sad that they don't have, food for the holidays, or the kids don't have Easter baskets or whatever it is." I'm really trying to teach my kids about like what is out there in the whole world and how to be like kind people and think about things outside of our smaller world. And also just like sticking up for people. Like one of the best moments I had as a mom was once someone teased a little boy at a party, and my son like bravely went up to this like big boy and was like, "Don't call him that." And I was like, they're listening.
You know what I think is super important with this whole conversation? I think that what we need to start instilling in our kids, for our future generation is emotional intelligence, right? We're not
Hmm.
taking other people into consideration because we're not even taking ourselves into consideration. Think about it like this: how many people grow up in like that high life, right? They're basically just mirroring their parents trying to compete with other parents, and they're not even taking in consideration that they're willing to do things just for that external validation and make themselves seem greater or happier or even in a better position than they really are. And in reality, what that's doing is invalidating themselves and taking that time to really understand what they need personally rather than what other people need. I always tell everybody, and you're gonna think I'm crazy for this, but I actually do want to take a stand towards the school system eventually. When I get to a certain point, I know that's gonna take a lot of finances to do so, but I think that what we need to start instilling, in our kids, from adolescence is one, emotional intelligence,
Hmm.
confidence, effective communication. We got to teach people like about taxes when they're young, because like I think the school system's rigged to just kind of just be like a puppet to the point where we're just pleasing everybody else but ourselves. And if we really understand ourselves and we're doing what it takes to please ourselves, that means that we understand our own emotions. And that means that we can go ahead and engage properly with other people in not a negative demeanor, but like more just like where we can respect where they're at. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the biggest problem in today's society because we're basically conditioning our future generation to invalidate everybody else and just kind of see from their own perspective.
I agree with you, to especially like the emotional intelligence. I feel like the school my kids go to, I am happy that there is a focus. I don't know how much, but there is definitely this focus on the emotional intelligence aspect. And I think it's nice. There's some teachers that really integrate that into the curriculum. And I think, when I was growing up, that we never even talked about that. It was like just, math, English. Like you never talked about
Well,
those things.
they're still not implementing that in school really. If you
No,
really
I
look
think
at it,
certain schools, maybe it
maybe
depends.
private school if you're paying for it.
Yeah, but, like, it's not part of the LAUSD curriculum unless like, some charters maybe. There's one charter in LA that is incredible, and they actually are like a social emotional developmental school that way, but you have to get in on lottery. I mean, it's a free school, but you have to, like, know about it, and, like, it's one of those, like, you get picked by luck of the draw to go.
Hey, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the most important thing that we got to do is bring more of that humanistic factor to our kids rather than materialistic. I think that the way that social media is built and the way that a lot of us are promoting ourselves just to be having that external validation is materialistic rather than the emotional intelligence side where it's humanistic. Because the thing that makes us human compared to all animals is just that we actually have the ability to feel, right? Feel
Mhm.
the different emotions, and besides communicating, technically dogs can communicate and whatnot, but like, you know what I mean, like where we can actually
Yeah.
communicate. I think that the biggest part is really just understanding that we're actually living beings and that we can actually feel, and that's what allows us to know that we're living. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's interesting because my kids are not on anything yet. I mean, my 9-year-old is at the cusp of probably wanting to understand social media because it's here now in the world. And also, I make a living on social media and I struggle with it because I love the platform for being able to tell stories and tell relatable truths and through that lens of humor and do what I do. However, there is a big negative side to the social media world, to TikTok and Instagram. And I'm shielding my kids from it for now. But
Let
A,
me ask
having
you
a
something.
mom that oh, yeah, go ahead.
Is it because you saw the social dilemma?
Oh, I definitely saw The Social Dilemma.
What's your thoughts on
Um,
that? The whole like addictive portion. I understand it, but I want to
yeah,
see what
100%. 100%. Like, the great news I mean, yes, 100%. I believe that there is a hit of dopamine when, like, you see a like, it's funny, I saw a CNN special that, Lisa Ling did too, and they actually tested every time your email goes off or a text, they had, like, a monitor on her, and it raised, like, these levels in her of stress, actually, and when she
stress,
silenced
not
it,
dopamine?
stress. Well, no, because there's certain parts, like when you get likes and like comments and things like that, it will give you the feel good, like the dopamine hit. But when you have your notifications on and you're getting dinged and say you're focusing on a task, like I'm talking to you right now, if I had not silenced my phone and I was getting like dings, it would actually, if you had a monitor attached, it creates stress. And she was saying like when you silence your phone or you're able to put it away, you're giving yourself that separation because look, these things are always in our hands, right? Someone can reach you, someone can email me or text me or whatever all day long. So I have gotten really good at I have a team I work with now that my business is on its way. I have someone that works for me that like will spend time on my Instagram, like doing stuff so that I don't have to be in there all day. I post everything myself. I create all my own content and I always am the creative vision, but say I need to engage more, like someone might help me with that. So I'm not sitting in there all day long because that I
Ooh,
used to do that.
that's
Yeah.
another topic though. That's another topic. All right, so here's the thing with me and social media. First of all, I do have a production crew. I have a team that handles, the content that's created for it. The only platform that I actually touch is Instagram. I don't let anybody on the team handle the posts and the comments
Really?
and whatnot. I kind
Okay.
of use Instagram more for a gimmick for myself, meaning that like
Okay.
it's, me giving advice to myself. When I post, it's usually because I'm going through something and I'm just trying to reinforce something as a gimmick so that like if I'm feeling it again, I can go back and look and just remind myself, hey, you know what, I said this. So if I'm giving myself advice, I know it's going to be valuable to somebody else. It's more business for me, Instagram too. Besides that whole
Yeah.
personal
Me too.
factor, I
Business for me.
generate a lot of income off of Instagram for True Life Ventures. But when it comes to it, I think that all the social media platforms, it could be used in that positive demeanor or that negative demeanor. I think that most
A
people are going on
hundred
there
percent.
to compare their lives to other people rather than utilizing it to their benefit to spread positivity and influence people that are in a negative situation to help them get out of their rut. Because you never know who your message could help. You know what they say, your mess is your message. So at the end of the day, if you have something that you've been through and you could spread that word through these platforms, that it's basically free advertising for a message that you have yourself. I think that's what people really have to start focusing on, really utilizing these platforms and leveraging them. Unless they're a comedian, then they can go ahead and, use it for other things too. Entertainment
But I
and
do,
motivation.
I have to say I actually really did for the first, well, I guess there were 2 times that I really like my platform is mostly comedy, fashion, but it's mostly like I think somewhere where someone can come and feel like, oh, someone gets me. But it was also somewhere to come and have a light laugh, and be entertained, but at the same time telling real truths of parenthood, relatable moments, all that. But 2 things that happened that I shared very publicly and through my platform that ended up having so many people reach out, and it felt really good that I was like helping through my own mess. Was when I was pregnant with my second, I got skin cancer. Like I was like 33 and I was like, what? I'm sorry. I grew up in Canada with no sun and it was scary and terrifying and I got it taken off. But I shared it and I ended up really deep diving into like sun care and products I loved. And I had so many people reach out about that. And they were like, because it was a very vulnerable post that I shared, I remember during that time in like the midst of all the comedy. And then again, recently, my 2 boys didn't do any fertility with them, got pregnant really easily, very easy pregnancies. With Eden, we had to go through fertility stuff and it was very hard. And I ended up sharing it once she was born. And if I tell you, the amount of people that reached out with questions, asking for numbers for doctors in LA or questions about just honestly, hundreds of people reached out. And it felt so good to be able to openly talk about something that was really hard and something I'd never been part of that, like trying to conceive fertility club, which is a hard club to be a part of because it can be very painful. And I have a lot of friends who are still in it and don't have the baby yet. But it was super fulfilling to be able to, it was scary to share it because again, I don't share a lot of personal, like my page is very much work, but I did go there, I did make it personal and it was very rewarding because I feel like if I even just, like you said, helped one person on their journey to feel like they're not alone. I had 2 miscarriages during the middle of the pandemic. It was really hard and really isolating. And I've probably talked to, like I said, like so many women who I don't even know who are going through it. And I talked to them and just listened or gave them tidbits of what it was like, the up and down of how it's not like a straight line, the grief. It's kind of like this. And I did a live as well and answered like all the questions that came my way.
Something that you just said right there, the just listening part. I think that most people don't realize that what that could do for somebody else. Just to sit there and listen. This is something that I actually got from Will Smith. All right, so I'm making sure I'm putting that credit out there. I'm not taking it, myself. But he says love is spelled LUV. Listen, understand, and validate. Right? So you're actually listening to the other person, not just taking bits and pieces and grabbing those bits and pieces and then formulating a response immediately based off of what you think they're saying. You're listening to the whole thing to truly understand it, to connect the dots and understand it, and then validate them, show them that you actually understand what they're saying. Doesn't mean you have to agree, but you're showing them that you understand where they're coming from, right? The respect portion. Most people don't realize that the most valuable thing that you can give to somebody is your time, and how you're spending that time with them is what's really going to make it valuable. That undivided attention, to really take the time to listen to them, show them that you care. It's genuine love. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's not just about you or what you're going through. It's, I'm here for you. I think that most people underestimate the power of being there, even just for like one person to really listen to them.
Yeah, like perfect strangers. There was like one woman I reached out to, actually. She posted a girl that I don't even really know. I feel like I've met her maybe once or twice. We don't know each other. And she shared that she just went through her second miscarriage. And I was like gutted because I've been there. I know what that feels like. And so I reached out to her and I said, I'm here to listen. Here's my number. Call me if you need to. DM me on here. I'm here. Like what I would have done for somebody to talk to when I was going through it, because I wasn't sharing it. So I can't blame anyone but myself. But the fact that this woman shared it, her journey, and then she reached out and she did talk to me. And all she wanted was for someone to listen and to feel, again, like that you're not alone, and that there is
There's other people out
eventually,
there.
yeah. And eventually I really believe life is such a pendulum. Like you go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. And when you're down, just know it will go up.
100%.
Like when I was in the middle of it, I mean, now I look at my baby and I'm like, oh my God, it was all worth it. But when you're in it, it's hard to see the other side.
100%, 100%. That's actually kind of the reason why I don't also let people touch my Instagram, even my team, because I want to have that personal touch. You know, I want people to know that it's actually me. Instagram's my biggest platform, and I want people to actually feel like, hey, you know what? Out of all these influencers, all these social media gurus and whatnot, you know, there's actually somebody out there that they can reach out to, and I'm responsive on Instagram. You know,
Me
like
too.
I don't care who it is. Like if it means just me sending one line to them, if it means
Yeah.
something to them, I'll do it just so that they see, hey, you know what? It's not fake. Anybody can do
Yeah.
this as long as you understand that people are out there that do care and that they want you to be able to go out there and win, you know?
hmm
All right, so I know that we don't have too much time left. All right, I know that we're cutting it real close right now. So I'm gonna put you on the spot. You got to tell us some
Okay.
jokes.
Oh my gosh, jokes.
I mean,
Like
even if it's a
actual.
knock joke, I'm ready for it.
Trying to think, my kids have so many great knock jokes. I like telling funny stories. Let me find you a good one. I'll give you another funny parenting story. I actually have me and Hayley have a podcast. We had a column called Everything's Embarrassing, where we really did share our most awkward, embarrassing stories ever with millions of people. I don't know why we decided to do that. And then we turned it into a podcast called Everything's Awkward, coming soon. But again, it's these like awkward, embarrassing stories. One of them I will share. So that's my joke of the day. I had just had my first baby, living in Venice. Venice, by the way, California is like hipsterville. It's like Brooklyn, New York. It's like everyone's a hipster there, you know, just gonna put it there. So just had my first baby. I was feeling so good. Like it was like 6 weeks after. My boobs were massive. They're not normally, they were so big. I felt like my tummy had gone down a little bit. I had gained 40 pounds in that pregnancy. I was just feeling great. My hair was like lustrous and like amazing. And I remember saying to my husband, babe, I'm going to go out for a walk without the baby. And he's like, good. Get out of the house. Like, I think he was like, you need to get out of the house. So I like dressed up. I was just like feeling myself. I was like, I'm going to go see like my barista at the coffee shop and like show him how amazing I look right now. Like, I just wanted to like feel good. So I walked to the coffee shop, and like, while I'm walking in, this woman comes up to me and she's like, oh my God, you look so good. I was like, thank you. I'm like, I do look really good. She's like, how far along are you? And I'm like, dead inside. I'm like, oh my God, she thinks I'm pregnant. She thinks I'm pregnant. And I got so awkward. I didn't want to make her feel bad. So I was like, thank you. A little. Like, I basically validated and told her I was pregnant. Meanwhile, like Chad, the barista, was super confused because I had clearly had the baby. It was all super awkward. We tell the story in our column and then in the podcast. But I remember in my head being like, this little bitch just told me I'm pregnant. But like, I also felt bad for her. So it was just like this weird thing. And I came home and I like, my husband was like, how was it? I was like, don't talk to me. And I like came home, plopped myself back, let it out again. And I was like, whatever. Why even try? Like it
Well, you know what they say, right? I mean, like at the end of the day, like when you're pregnant, you do have this glow to you. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're having a boy. I've heard that, right?
It's true. Yeah. I was
And
glowy.
so at the end of the day, I mean, you were probably feeling yourself to the point where you were glowing, and you know maybe she got it mistaken, but hey, you know what?
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, we
Uh,
definitely want you back on the show so that you can give us more jokes and whatnot. If anybody wants to follow you, if they want to get more insights on being a mom or get some, you know, a few laughs in there during the day, where can they go to find you?
So I am just my last name, Gutstadt, on TikTok, on Instagram.
Which
It's
I mispronounced.
GUT. It's GUTSTADT. I also have Don't Call Me Mommy on Instagram at Don't Call Me Mommy, which is our comedy duo. And then my blog, which is SamSoMuch. If you head there, it links to everything. And I also have a lot of all my favorite brands you can shop there, whether it's baby stuff, mom stuff, fashion, beauty. I love clean beauty. A lot of articles on there, things like that. So the blog is kind of like where you can find everything.
There you guys have it. So Samantha, I do appreciate you joining us. And to tell you the truth, I know that we messed up in the beginning of the podcast, but hey, when me and my wife come out to California, we owe you a drink. All right, you and your husband, drinks on us. All right.
Would love to meet you
So
in person.
I do apologize about you know, getting started, but hey, we appreciate you joining us. And guys, go follow her, get some inspiration, get a few laughs in for the day, and hey, there you go. Samantha,
Thank
appreciate you
you.
once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What's going on, guys? If you guys like that episode of the True Life Network podcast, make sure you like, subscribe, and make sure to go ahead and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes.